welcome everyone to our home recording panel. Thanks so much for joining us. This is hosted by the Holland Project. Most of you are familiar with the Holland Project, but for those of you who aren't, we're an all ages arts and music space in Reno, Nevada. We do all kinds of community programming like this discussion. We also do workshops. We have a gallery, a couple galleries actually, so we do some really awesome art shows, and usually music programming, which we've been doing some virtual programming and are hoping to get back to some IRL programming soon. You can check out our stuff at hollandreno.org. You can also donate or become a member at hollandreno.org/donate, and Brigdon can pop those links in the chat. And just, follow our stuff, and we'll have some more workshops coming up soon, and actually another home recording workshop in a few weeks that you can do regardless of where you are, and we send you the materials and stuff. So this is a home recording panel about recording, which is and specifically about recording yourself, not necessarily about recording other bands, but something that people have done before COVID, but I think people have definitely started to do in greater and greater numbers this past year. And so we just wanted to get a group of people from different backgrounds, who kind of used music in different ways, and just talk about the process. And, it's a pretty strange ritual that we do, kind of recording ourselves and listening to it back and recording again, listening to it back. And we thought it'd be awesome to sort of hear how different people experience that. So we're gonna just go around. We have a really awesome panel here of, should be 5 people right now. I think we have 4 of our panelists, Eve, Justus, Julie, and Raj. We're waiting for one more. And Raj is gonna kick it off for us. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, Raj, how you came to music and how you came to recording, and sort of how you do it now. And if you have any questions during the course of this discussion, this is to everyone, drop them in the chat, because we'd rather have them earlier so that we don't get flooded with questions at the end. Raj, let's hear it.
Sure. I'm going to do a quick.
Uh-oh.
Here.
There you go.
So you kind of get a sense of, I'll show you all this stuff. So just kind of a background. I've been making sort of, I guess, sample-based industrial. So I use an MPC 1000, got a Dr. Sample, got some synths. This is pretty much my touring gig, which I'm really excited about because it weighs less than 20 pounds. So it's been really awesome. But yeah, I can, if people have questions about all the hardware stuff, I can certainly go into detail on that. But yeah, I've been recording music for, I don't know, maybe 15 years, a lot of electronic stuff. I also record, I played drums and guitar and bass and all that. But since COVID, I've been mostly recording at home and just kind of finding new ways to sample stuff. I love sampling things. And so, yeah, it's been cool to try to look at all the stuff I have and make better use of it. I'm based in Boston, and one of the projects I do, which this setup that I showed you is dedicated to, is a project called Forks, which is, I don't know, it's industrial. I'm just going to leave it at that. You can check it out if you go online.
Just
Cool.
one quick follow-up question, Raj. What can you tell us what sampling stuff means? Does that mean like just taking a little taste?
Oh yeah, sure. I was really obsessed with, I think, like mid-90s hip hop. Like that aesthetic is really cool, but I don't know. I've made hip hop beats, but I've always been more into industrial, and so I have a lot of records, and so I'll sample stuff from records, cassette. But I've also been doing a lot of field recordings. I got a Zoom, the H6 Zoom recorder, which has been really cool. It's a very, very versatile thing. So field recordings, cassettes, I don't know, you name it. The radio's been really fun to sample, because you can kind of, you only get like one shot at it, and so you sample it, and you get whatever you can and salvage it. So I like that. I like those limitations, and processing it and changing it and mutating it. It's a lot of fun.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Eve, tell us a little bit about your background with recording and music and all that and everything else.
Cool. Hi. So I'm Eve Parker Finley. My pronouns are she and her. I make music under my own name. And I come from I grew up playing a lot of classical music. My main instrument is violin, and it took me until like my late teens, early 20s to like find my own kind of voice in music. I like really rebelled against what I saw as a very restrictive classical music culture. And in my like teens and 20s, I was very immersed in this like DIY indie rock and electronica and ambient music scenes. And that really inspired me to like start making my own music. So around like mid 2010s, I started playing around with my violin, and I started out mostly as like a looping based thing. I still have my same Boss RC50 looping pedal, and that's a big part of what I do. But I played a lot of solo stuff. I recorded 2 EPs, just like myself with GarageBand and a little Scarlett interface. And then as the years went on, I tried to learn a lot more things. I like now have, now I'm an Ableton girl through and through for a number of years. And I still do a lot of recording at home, especially in my like songwriting process. Now I also write a lot of like arranging for string quartets and things. So the way that I do a lot of that composing is through recording, because I like to hear it and picture it. And what else? I have like a specific topic. Should I talk about that now, or should I save it for later?
Maybe save it for later. We'll go through everybody. And then we'll come back to you. Thanks so much. The violin seems like a tricky instrument to record, so I'm excited to hear more about that.
Mm-hmm. She sure is.
Okay, Justus, take it away.
Hey, what's up? How's it going, everyone? You can hear me, right? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, my name's Justus, Proffit. I play music, play everything, play all my instruments, do all my own shit. And yeah, I record from home. This is my room right here. This is my whole setup. I got a little drum set back here, you know. Got my this is the 488. Sometimes I record with. This is a tape. This one's fun. Sometimes I record with that. Sometimes I record with this analog board right here. This is some monitors. Sometimes I record on this computer with the Scarlett. So I like to record on a bunch of stuff. I play everything. So yeah, so it's pretty easy. And I come out with a bunch of music, and it's really easy. So yeah, that's what I do. That's what I've been doing. So yeah.
Cool. Sounds easy.
It's very easy. Anyone can do it. Anybody can do it.
Okay, Julie, how about you? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I lost my mouse for a second. I'm not muted now, right? Okay, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie. I make music under Slime Queen. I'm really excited to be here. Also kind of shocked, but yeah, it's really nice to be here. I've only been making music for a little under a year. I guess most of my like artistic background is in poetry. I've written poetry ever since I was in college. I guess most like the music background that I have comes from playing the alto saxophone in high school band and doing a little bit of work for my college radio station. I like helped engineer ads and also recorded some live sets. So learned a lot of tricks with using a DAW and miking there that I have definitely actually forgotten a lot of. Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to like have started making music over the past year. I think it really came from a place for me from being in the literary world and being in the poetry world and feeling really perfectionist and also sort of protective about my work and really reluctant to share and feeling like there were a lot of stakes. And I think COVID actually made me rethink a lot of this because I was on like a writing fellowship program, and then that ended because of COVID, and then I didn't have a job and was like living with my mom for 3 months. And that in a lot of ways kind of was really creatively enriching because I thought a lot about like when I first started making stuff as like a teenager on the internet, on Tumblr, and thinking about the attitudes that I had then for creating that were so divorced from like institutional validation and just about like putting stuff out there, no matter how cringeworthy or embarrassing it was. And I think that ethos is definitely something that like led me to start making music, because I really appreciated for a long time, like as an observer, the sort of more like DIY attitude around a lot of it that I saw, like especially compared to the writing world. So I'm really happy to have found this like other form of expression, and definitely I feel like every time I make a song, I'm like learning something new. And when I listen to my old songs, I'm like, by old meaning like a few months ago, I'm like, wow, this is like, I could have improved this a lot, but I'm like happy I like really put my all into making the song at the time with like what I knew. And it's just been a really nice learning process.
Awesome, Julie. Well, I think your story is kind of, yeah, it's really one of those like ideal versions of what DIY music stuff is supposed to be. So we're really stoked to have you on the panel, you know, as someone who's kind of, yeah, I feel like really using it to its full potential to just kind of put yourself out there and try something new. Yeah, so thanks a lot for joining us today. And I think our lagging panelist is here. Jacob, you're muted.
Sup? Am I lagging? I'm lagging?
Well, you're lagging as in you were 15 minutes late, but you're here.
Oh, sorry.
Your camera seems like it's doing great though.
Okay, good.
Good. So yeah, tell us about yourself, your background, and how you came to music, how you came to recording, and anything else that you find kind of relevant to recording yourself in particular.
Okay, so my name is Jacob Rubeck, and yeah, I pretty much started just from I don't know, like not knowing how to do anything at all. Like I remember as a kid, I got like this M audio like aux input thing. It didn't even, it had like a USB jack on one side and then like a 1/4 inch on the other side. And like I had to figure out how to use like this whole software, and it just did not work out. And then I got a MacBook finally in college and tried using, you know, GarageBand and trying to like buy a simple interface, and I like just hated it. I didn't think it ever sounded good, and you know, just trying to experiment with it without you know, knowing how to do anything. And basically I bought this thing just because it's like this 8-track recorder, which I recorded all the Casino Hearts stuff on, and the last Gap Girls record, as far as like the you know, original stems. And I love this process so much more than using the whole, you know, GarageBand, Logic, Ableton thing, just because it very much limited myself. And I was able to that's a heavy thing, and I was able to you know, have full control over or have like, you know, be limited and have the need to like, you know, fill up every single slot and be the most creative I can within a limited space, which is something that's, I don't know, really appealing and great. As far as using like you know, DAWs and stuff now, I think it's like a more frustrating thing, just because there isn't that, it's just kind of so open that you get a little less creative. But I love the DIY bedroom mentality of just like, you know, using what you got and not pouring a bunch of money into things. I mean, I do it because I kind of have to now to keep up with everything, but the bedroom mentality is like the most, I don't know, organic and beautiful sense of like, you know, really pushing yourself into just doing what you like, just making what you want with what you got, you know, and being humble about it, and like, you know, having your own unique voice. And I don't know what else. I mean,
No,
I think that's good, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I like the term bedroom mentality. We'll have to come back to that later.
Oh yeah.
So Eve, because you mentioned something specifically, you said, you know, you kind of had something you wanted to talk about. I'm just going to open it up to you because maybe that'll sort of take us in the next direction. So go ahead, take it away.
Sure. Well, when I was thinking about preparing for today, I was like, okay, what am I going to talk about? Like, I can talk about gear. I started like writing down the gear that I have, but I feel like I'm like not actually that much of a gearhead. What I feel like I do think a lot about and have thought a lot about this year in particular that is related to recording is something that's actually not related to recording at all, but it is. It's about like, it's about the environment that I feel like I'm creating around the studio that I work in. So the studio that I work on is here, which is also my apartment. My bed is up there. I love this place so much. And I've spent so much time here over the last year, especially. And because of that, I've invested a lot of time in thinking about lighting, about plants, about daylight, about inspiration, about art and things. And I sort of noticed in the past few months, how much that affects my like writing and recording process. So I can't show you because my computer is plugged into a bunch of things, but behind my computer is my like big wall of plants. And I find that very inspiring to like be surrounded by life and a little bit of like happiness, but I try and keep it clean. And I'm right beside my window of my apartment. So I just wanted to like bring that up as a thing. And I was curious if other people also like think about that or how they think about that. And the other thing related to it is that I try and set up something that was really helpful for me with recording at home is to have my setup totally ready to go, that I just have to like turn 1 to 2 things on and then I can like jump into playing or recording something. Because before, when I had to like take things out, I used to share this jam space with like 30 people and I always had to like bring my things out and put it away, and it just makes it a lot less organic. So I just thought those were 2 things I want to bring up about home recording.
No, those are great. And I think that dovetails on the bedroom mentality thing, because yeah, if it is your room where you live and you work and you have to be creative, yeah, you gotta like, the environment has to work, you know, and if you can see it maybe impacting sort of, if you feel inspired or uninspired, you know, that makes a big difference, especially if you're spending a lot of time there when you're not recording. You don't want to sit down to recording and then be like, how does that fucking thing I forgot to clean up, and then you have to do that. So I'd love to hear some of the other panelists talk about that, you know, kind of your setup, maybe how it's evolved over the years, how you can kind of keep it inspiring and also keep it functional. So go ahead and yeah, any of the other panel. I mean, I don't want to call on someone if they don't have anything to say. So anyone want to chime in?
Eve, your room rules, by the way. I just want to say that is such a good environment.
Thank you.
I just want to slip that in.
Thank you. Can I show off one thing before we move on, which is
Oh, yeah.
that I got these lights for my ceiling, but also for like a spotlight things that can change color based on like an app that I have. So I can like change it to like blue or like red. Anyway,
Is that the Govee?
No, it's called I don't know. I can't remember what it's called.
I got something like that too.
I love it. I find it
makes
very
everything
inspiring.
so much better.
Yeah.
Well, Raj, I'm going to call on you because you have kind of complicated setup. So kind of talk about how do you keep it functional? You know, you can talk to Eve's first point or to her second point about sort of like plug and playism, because plug and play can be complicated when, you know, you got a lot of other factors.
Yeah, for sure. I work with 4 different things, so I'm always, I have like a pretty nice setup here, but I'm always unplugging shit and then replugging it in and then plugging it on top of something else. Because I don't know, I really like hardware, which is kind of stupid and fetishistic on some level. But I don't know, I'm a very like, I think kinesthetically oriented person with gear. So like right now I'm recording, I don't know, I'll just simplify it and say it's a metal demo. And so I do go to the studio, you know, it's pretty much like me, I only share it with one other person. So I just go and track drums and bring it here and then mess with it. So it's nice to have that Zoom to be able to do that. But when I'm working on this project Forks, it's really about like finding different combinations and add mixtures of things. So I would really like, Eve, I think that you have a really nice setup, and I think color actually does a lot. And I used to have a red lamp in here to make things grim and spooky or whatever, for mixing, which is a lot of fun. I no longer have that lamp, which is a bummer. But I think that small things like that can really change your whole perspective. And it does change my perspective when I'm mixing. If I'm mixing and it's, if I'm mixing some like super dark Stygian shit and it's all bright and sunny outside, I don't think it really concords very well with the affect I'm trying to go for. So that's a really cool thing. I think that I haven't really taken that as much into consideration, and I will more. So yeah, definitely a huge point there.
And Julie, I'm curious, as someone who's kind of, newer to the game, maybe talk a little bit about getting set up in the first place, right? And kind of creating an environment where you feel like you're comfortable sort of recording, right? Because you're kind of in the, not necessarily the early stages, but you've definitely like have been figuring this out quite recently. So I imagine you might have some thoughts on like, you have an idea in your head and you want to get it down, but like, then you have to make the like technology responsive to it, right? So talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. So my first song, it basically like first started as a poem, and then I like was kind of joking around with a friend, like, oh, maybe I should like set this to a melody. And so I had a piano at my mom's house at the time, so I like figured out a melody, and then I was like, okay, now what I do? So I downloaded GarageBand. I didn't have a microphone or anything at the time, so I like elevated my MacBook on a stack of books, so it was at mouth level, the like microphone, and recorded that way into GarageBand. And then once I like had finished that and realized like, oh, making this music is actually really, really fun, and I want to like gather the equipment for this, I just like got on Craigslist and tried to see what was out there. I am like a little bit of a minimalist, so like prefer to keep things as digital as possible. And also, even if it's like not music equipment, I'll usually use Craigslist because I think it helps me to have like limited consumer choice, so I don't have to think too much about my options. But basically I bought like a blue snowball microphone, I'll get it right here, for like $15 from like a former Brooklyn podcaster who'd given up on his dreams. And then like use that and an Ableton trial to like basically make most of my stuff. I also got like a $20 MIDI keyboard from another person off of Craigslist. And then from that, I made like a 10-track album in a single summer. And then as I've been like progressing, I've sort of accumulated a little bit more. This is my roommate's childhood piano keyboard. It has like the notes taped on it still from when he was learning as a child. And it comes with a MIDI attachment. So I'd used that for a while. But then my room isn't super big. So like the setup of having this back there and my computer here wasn't super conducive to like making stuff or like improvising or just like playing around on the fly. So like recently I got this MIDI keyboard again off of Craigslist for like $50, which I really have been enjoying playing with. I got this maybe like 2 weeks ago and it's definitely changed a lot. But for the most part, I feel like I'm still overcoming my like bias against owning things. I am finding that like being able to like physically access things does like make a world of difference. But for the most part, like everything is like, I really just use Ableton, and then for sound design, all of it's like stock Ableton synths or like modifying those a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm glad gear is kind of one of these things where you can't escape it really. It's like you want to be minimal, you want to be able to like, not clutter up your room with crap, but it is what it is. And I like how you're kind of talking about gear as sort of, it can be a way to get inspired, right? So you might have an idea, but something about the computer, like the computer works, but it kind of works when you like know what you want. I feel like gear works a little better when you like, the gear itself can sort of show you things that maybe you didn't even know, like would sound cool or something like that. And I personally also identify with being limited by Craigslist, and just being like, hey, if it's cheap, I'm just going to get it. And then it might work, it might not work, and we'll sort of see what happens. So Justus, seeing as you have a bunch of crap there behind you, Maybe talk a little bit about like being inspired by a particular piece of gear. For example, you mentioned the 488, right, which is a cassette tape, 8-track, and that's different from, say, using the computer, right? So how are like projects that you do maybe determined by the way that you're recording them, right? The gear that you're using to record them.
So yeah, I started off recording. I had a 4-track, and you know, that was cool, but it only records 4 tracks. So I've noticed that like in recording, you could basically get everything crappy, but you just get good mics, and then it'll sound good. That's like what I've noticed. You can like this 488, it's really good, but like the one I had before, the 4-track, it was not good, but I made it sound good from getting good mics. So I have like this. This is a mic that I like a lot. This is an M20, but it's like kind of rigged up. My friend, he runs a venue was a venue called the Rec Center, and he makes like a lot of weird gear, and he gave me that mic. He gives me a bunch of cool stuff. He actually gave me these monitors too. But yeah, I buy a lot of stuff that's cheap, you know, and then I make it work just because I'm broke most of the time. So I got like this PV right here. This is also a really, really cheap amp. And also this little Huntington mini practice amp, also very cheap. Sounds really good. Solid state, all day. Solid state all day. That's all I got to say. That's the rules for me. I don't mess with tube amps usually ever. Yeah, that's I like that. Lately, I've been recording on GarageBand though, because it's easy. And then if I want it to sound like tapey, I just record the whole thing on GarageBand, and then I just throw it in the tape machine, and then I just put it back on digitally, if I want to.
Revealing some industry secrets there.
Yep. Yeah, that's secret. That's or you know, that's also why I use this analog board right here, because then I'll just record onto the analog board, throw it in to the computer, and then it sounds old. So that's a little secret for anyone who wants to know the secrets of making your shit sound like old if you're recording digitally. So there you go. That's how you do it.
Cool. Well, we don't want to get too in the weeds on gear, but Jacob, that thing that you showed me, that Yamaha thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you used to bring that to shows and use it just for like the reverb effect that it had on there?
I used to do that.
Talk a little bit about kind of finding a piece of gear that you love. And in this case, it's silly, right? Because you're bringing something that's like this big and weighs 30 pounds that could just be a reverb pedal. But in this case, you grow attached to something for a particular reason.
Well, I mean, it was just such a specific reverb sound that I was like, I just loved. Like, I thought it was better than any, reverb pedal. But really, I mean, I found out. I mean, it's like it's a Korg, digital 8-track. But I mean, the reason why it sounded great, and also like why I felt like I was nailing every track, was because there was like a MIDI effect that was happening that was like perfecting everything. That was like keeping it on time. Which whenever I used it live, I was like, something's a little off, like something's going on, like something doesn't feel right. But there was like that feeling of, wanting to bring this device in to help with the live setup, or like to, bring the bedroom in. But it was such a I mean, it's like, something I of course regret now more than anything. But this guy was like my life source, even whenever I was, I moved to LA, like, and kept going with it. It's just like a little piece of my heart. I stopped using it because it broke, basically. I couldn't extract any files onto my computer anymore. So I had to move on. But I mean, if it didn't break though, then I don't know what. I mean, I think it would have honestly like slowed me down too. I moved on, which is like the saddest part of it. But it happens, but it's just nice to be so connected to like what you got. I think like what Julie was saying before, where it's like this, you know, this minimalistic kind of environment. But there's just things that just draw you in, you know, like the fact that you ended up with like a podcaster's microphone and like a keyboard that has like some stickers on it. It's like everything in like the bedroom world, it just, you know, becomes a part of your home at a certain point. And like it's other people's like experiences and like kind of like soul that just like a, you know, that humanistic history that just like ends up in your lap and you're able to do something and create something, you know, and then it maybe moves on to like, you know, the next person. I mean, that's like the beauty of like ending up with like some of these things. And like it's kind of like the balance between the dog thing and like and you know, just like having like this you know, cheap or shitty gear, is that like there is still just like this human like connection between like hardware and the heart that like, you know, that just lives and that beats, you know, and that like it's not all going to be like, I don't know, filtered through the computer, you know. It's not through like the Black Mirror system. It's like, it's, you know, from the heart, you know. And I think that's like such a special thing, you know, is to be connected like with what you got, you know, and then connects with others. Sorry, just a whole ramble.
But that takes me to kind of what I want to talk about next, right? Is that yeah, you can be connected to the gear, but the thing about recording yourself that's different than a lot of other venues for kind of playing music is that you're by yourself and you don't have the synergy with other people, right? And you know, you obviously once your music is done and you show it to somebody and they listen to it, that's kind of a connection. But a connection that's missing is sort of like jamming with somebody else, right? And you're kind of, it's all you. And Julie, I'm not sure if you've played with other people, you know, but I know, you know, some of our panelists have definitely had the experience of both, you know, playing with the band, playing by yourself, or with one other person and by yourself. So I want to hear about the differences and maybe what people prefer about having total control, or how that can, you know, become like an authoritarian dystopia where like you feel like you actually need someone else's voice to make things, you know, to make things, I don't know, different a little bit. You know, sometimes you might have a solo recording where maybe you just invite one musician to play one little part, but that is the key to like making this song awesome. And part of the key might be somebody else being in there, not even what they played, right? But someone else's participation. So I don't know, Eve, I'm curious, you know, have you played with other people before? You know, if you have, or if you haven't, what's the difference between playing with other people and just being by yourself?
Yeah, totally. I feel like I have so many things to say about that. Well, like growing up in classical music world, I like definitely played with a lot of like, you know, there was youth orchestra, there was high school band, there was quartets and things. And those are my first experiences of playing with music with other people. And then in my late teens, early 20s, I played with a couple of friends. I had a band, a synth pop band called Magic Perm with a few friends, and that was really fun and sweet. And it was our first experience making that kind of music together. And we all had very similar, like, we all had similar backgrounds of having played music for a long time, but not in this way, but wanting to. And then after that band, someone moved away. And when I was alone again, this is where I really like fell into this hole of like just playing music with myself. Like all of my songs were looping pedal and violin based, and that was really fun, and it definitely helped me learn that I could create a whole like tapestry of a song just myself. And looping music for me turned into like producing things on my own with a computer and layers and mixing synths and instruments and violin and stuff. But recently, I like over the past year, I've, you know, or like 2 years, I guess, started to like want to invite people back into playing music with me and playing my music with other people, and that has been so awesome. Like I really love arranging my pieces for different ensembles, and I feel like every time I play a show, I'm like playing with a different arrangement, and I love being able to do that because I think it's really special. especially love playing with like a bunch of other strings and electronics too. What was the question?
I mean, you know, you kind of go back and forth, and I find that sometimes with people who do their own recording, right? You start playing in a band, and then you realize that no, you know, I can do it by myself better,
Yeah.
and you realize, but actually, I miss these things about playing with people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Justus. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the other things I've thought about like that are like, and I want to bring this up too, is I think sometimes in the home recording process, I don't know if other people also feel this, but it can be really easy to fall into the darkness or just like, you know, like if I'm working on a song, sometimes I can get really obsessive about it, and that's for other reasons too, but like I can listen to it over and over again and really start picking it apart, and it like takes over my whole day and my whole emotions. And I don't know. Recently, I've tried to like not let that happen because I actually don't find it very productive. I need to like take breaks from something and also invite other people in, which is why for my second album, I am working with a friend to co-produce it, which is awesome too. That's all.
And Justus, I know, you know, I've seen you play with a band, right? So talk about like, what's it like sort of, you know, you record the song all by yourself, and then you kind of have this group of musicians that you sort of bring in, like Eve was saying, maybe you're composing still your music, but other people come in and play it, you know. Talk about that and maybe the challenges of that, or how that can be rewarding if someone like takes a different spin on a part that you wrote or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I think when I record all my stuff, and then when I play it live, live is a lot more like it's a lot louder. It's like a big rock band for sure. That's how I feel. And I do let my band. Well, I don't really. We don't really practice anymore. I don't really practice at all anymore, to be honest with you. But when we did, they basically would. I'd show them the parts. I always have like at least 3 guitar parts in my songs, you know, all different parts. And I kind of let everyone put their little twist on it for sure. I like to collaborate and record with people all the time. Or just like produce somebody's music. I'm big with collaborating, especially when it comes to recording. But yeah, it's different. For sure, jamming. I haven't jammed for literally like a year. I'm going to keep it real with you. I just record. All the time. I have a lot of music. I think I've recorded like 3.5 records since quarantine. But you know, maybe they'll come out soon. But yeah, I would rather, my ideal thing is just to like be with one other musician. I like to just record with one other musician and then just make music. I just did it with my buddy right there in the chat. That's my buddy Sean. We just did 2 songs. And yeah, like we just switch off on all instruments. That's what I like to do. I just be like, what do you want to play this? Okay. And just as we go, or even just write the song as we go, write and record it. I like doing that. I could just bust out really quick. And yeah, writing songs are easy.
That seems to be the theme. Yeah. And Raj, you I've seen you kind of, you know, you do something a little challenging too, which is you do sometimes like perform with other people, right? Which for you know, electronic music or for sample-based stuff is different than, it's a little less intuitive, I think, than like a band with the drums and the bass, and they kind of have this way of fitting together, you know? So talk about like, yeah, collaborating with people with a setup like yours, which is not the same as, you know, like stringed instruments that sort of naturally kind of have a way of like working together.
So I think like the way that I play my samplers, like I actually hit the buttons, and so in a way it is kind of approximating, you know, to some extent like an instrument. I really like playing the drums. I always feel like I'm getting better at playing my sampler because I play the drums. I'm not super good at the drums, but it's just really fun to like have that sort of, again, like that sort of kinesthetic aspect to it. And so if I'm playing with somebody, and so say they have a MIDI sequence, if I know, generally what's going on, I can play to it, just like I would be jamming with somebody. And so that's a lot of fun. But yeah, doing things during quarantine, it's I haven't jammed with anyone, forever. And I was in a band, I was playing drums and a friend was playing guitar. And that magic is missing from when I perform in my bedroom, which is really hard. Because I think that the quarantine, the aspect of quarantine I think is most dehumanizing is being scared to play with other people. It's really like, you go and you see people playing with one another and they're wearing masks. And, I think for me, I don't think I want to risk that. I don't want to, just for me personally, I don't want to risk giving somebody COVID and then having them pass it on to their grandmother. So that kind of process is really making me hungry, but I'm finding ways to approximate what I do with the setup I have. So, like I said, I have an MPC and I have I have this crazy pedal. It's gear fetishism is a problem, but I love this pedal. And I think that this pedal, it's in a vent-tied space. I got it for really cheap. It's kind of an expensive pedal, but it fills in those gaps of if I am playing solo, I can, crank up the reverb, and there's a bunch of different reverb settings, and it's also a MIDI thing. So I can trigger sequences that I play over. And so it's like an approximation of jamming with somebody, and that's really nice. Ultimately, yeah, I really want to go back to being able to share a physical space with another human or two humans. But in general, I've always sort of played by myself. And I have a video component to what I do now too. So it's like I'm scoring a soundtrack. Right before COVID, I got to tour Europe. And so I had a portable LCD projector. And so I was able to play along with that. And that was nice. And I was able to take the emphasis off me and, kind of direct it towards the visual element. That was really fun.
Awesome. I'm just going to say really quick, anyone who is here and has some questions for our panelists, please do drop them in the chat so we can, actually we have a question here from Michelle. Michelle wants to know, as a follow-up to that, Raj, can you talk more about the scoring process for the video? So maybe for people who want to integrate audio visual stuff, are you just kind of winging it? Are you trying to time things? How does that work?
Yeah, a lot of it is timed. So the sequences I have, I've played with people who have video generators, and it's more abstract kind of things. That's definitely you just do whatever and feel it and get into the groove. But the stuff I have composed, I'm actually I know exactly what I've filmed, and I know where the breaks are in the films, and I know where the songs break. And so I have to practice the set over and over. While there are variations in that, I know that, if there's a part that needs to have a certain sample triggered, then I have to have that foresight. So I have to be able to see what's going on as well, but there is some degree of improvisation for sure. So I do all the film stuff, and a lot of the film stuff is also sampled, which is fun. I got this ridiculous set of films for high school lab experiments, and there's snails. And so there's one there's that, and that had a certain element where the samples looked like the video. And so there's also that sort of a cross section where if you're thinking about what you're doing, you can either decide to do the film first or make the sounds first and then compose the music vice versa. But yeah, everything sort of has its place when I'm playing and composing.
Awesome. And Julia, I kind of want to hear from you. I'm not sure, did you mention kind of collaborating with other people? And yeah, talk about that, because your process definitely started very solo, and if you have ideas about collaborations and stuff, how do you see that evolving in your music?
Yeah, for sure. That's been something I've been thinking about a lot recently. I guess a big thing that drew me to music to begin with was that it was so collaborative, and there were I guess like especially compared to writing again, like that feels more solitary and also a bit like competitive sometimes. So as I was making my album, I actually like really did set out to like work with my friends or just rope them in however I could, whether they wanted to be involved or not. So for example, like I had a friend who also had never recorded herself before do like backing vocals, and I had another friend who was also at home, like going through her childhood stuff, like send me a recorder sample that I played with. And I just tried to like incorporate as many people as possible in the music and be able to like say that they're featured on my album, and that just like gave her really nice energy. I also have like my roommate is like a graphic designer, so I got him to like design scenes for like this concert I did. And being able to just involve as many people as possible that way was really fun. I think I've never really like jammed with anyone, and I think that's also a little bit intimidating for me at the moment, but something I like really would like to be able to do. So a few weeks ago, actually, I made like a Craigslist post in New York City, basically like asking to be in a band and like putting myself out there. And through that, I got in touch with like a friend of a friend actually, and who also started making music recently. She's in this chat right now. Her name is Abby from Mars. You should check out her stuff. And I guess like because of COVID, it is actually really hard to jam, but we've formed like a Discord where we share samples that we have recorded or like things that we're working on that we hope that we can collaborate together with. And we've also been using Splice to like share sessions, Ableton sessions with each other. So yeah, I think it's great that there's so many kind of like digital tools to be able to collaborate still. And I think especially for me, someone without like experience physically collaborating, that kind of actually is a way to get into it.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that as sort of one of the last things that we cover. It's interesting how you can record this super duper personal stuff and then put it out there to like the entire internet. And somehow that seems less like vulnerable and scary than just like singing in front of one other person just in your room, right? Who might never even talk about it to anyone ever again, right? So there's a weird relationship there between like, I mean, I guess stage fright is the general term for it, but you know, just being self-conscious or whatever, and somehow being alone in your room, that goes away, even though you might be releasing it to a lot of people. And I have kind of a funny anecdote that I'd like you guys to talk about. Most of us aren't really, we might be alone in our room, but you know, a lot of us don't have the sort of benefit or privilege of necessarily being alone in our house, right? So there might be other people there. And being a home recordist, you know, especially in the roommate universe, you know, that most people inhabit for a long time, or even with a partner, right? Other people do hear what you're doing, right? And Jacob, I know that an ex-roommate of yours told me a story once about you downstairs and maybe like a repetitive singing practice that you were engaging in, and how, you know, he was upstairs and kind of would hear you downstairs just going like, oh, oh, you know, so that there is a sense of like the privacy. It's something you need it, but it's never 100%, right? So maybe Jacob, start with, you know, talk about being alone, recording by yourself, but still kind of, how do you kind of, you know, does that mean that you play more quietly? You know, that might be part of it, right? Does that mean that, you know, like Raj, if you want to do drums, you got to go somewhere else, right? So that kind of imposes its own limitations, right? Self-recording, it seems like it's unlimited, but there are limitations, especially if we're in the bedroom, right? So talk about that a little, Jacob.
Oof. All right. So I like, whenever I record by myself, I have to give it my all, like always. And that has like bit me in the ass like so many times. Like Julian Jacobs, love him to death. You lived with him in a house in Reno a couple years ago. And like our rooms were just separated by like a thin wall. So every time I would get off of work, I like would rush home. I'd go to my 8-track and I would just start like doing everything, like just, you know, drums. And then I'd go out and see if his car was there, come back, guitar, bass, whatever. But every single time I would record a track, like I would go and check, because he would like bust in my room mid-session and be like, dude, cut it out. Like bust in my room while I'm in the middle of like doing it. And it is literally the worst possible feeling, because like whenever you're in it, whenever you're like recording your song and someone interrupts it, like you are so obsessed at that point with it that it's like once you stop, all you can do is, you know, keep thinking about it. So there's no other way to like do it. And sometimes I've even scrapped songs because like the fact that I couldn't even finish it in that moment like made me feel bad, and I like would delete it, you know. And the thing is like after that situation, I've always made sure to like talk to people and be like, look, I have to be loud, I have to finish this thing, you know, like that's the rule. If you're gonna live with me, you got it. Like that just needs to be, because, and especially like moving to Los Angeles, it's definitely been a situation of like everyone I know is like a musician, so everyone kind of understands. And like I haven't had that problem like since then, but it is such like it is like such a sad thing to like have to you know, compress yourself in that sense, you know, of like, all right, I gotta live by the rules, but it's like, you know, this is your one way of like actually like expressing yourself, and you know, it gets shut down constantly. It's just like kind of like the worst feeling. And then you kind of get, you know, a little like self-absorbed with yourself. It's like, well, if he's not okay with me, you know, being loud and stuff, maybe it's bad. Maybe I'm like doing like, maybe it just sounds like garbage or something. And then you get like in your own head about it. And nowadays I don't have to worry about it anymore. But I say like, you know, work with your time schedule and like work with other people's time schedule, and like, you know, have like that open dialogue about like how you like need to do this thing, you know, because like otherwise it's gonna like drive you crazy and eat you up. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, good advice, Jacob. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm curious, yeah, those limitations, yeah, they make a difference. Like, for example, you know, just the bedroom mentality in general, I think it's kind of, there's a whole genre of music over the past few years that's developed because people are just recording stuff in their bedroom, and it has a sound to it that's kind of specific to that. And that'll be interesting to look and see kind of how this past year has kind of affected that too. So we're getting close to the end of our time, and I want to get to people's questions in the chat. Elise did ask, what would be the little first step for someone who has never tried to make electronic music? And I see Julie responded, learningmusic.ableton.com. So that sounds like some great advice for just getting started. We have a question specifically for you, Justus. Ian says, love your music, and two questions that you can kind of combine into one. Does your songwriting process generally begin on the guitar? And when you begin recording a song at home, sort of what are your first steps?
You hear me, right?
Yep, and we see you.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Begin recording at home, first steps. I record, it starts differently every time. I don't know. Sometimes I'll write the vocal melody first. Sometimes I'll write the guitar riff first. Sometimes it changes all the time. I like making different genres of music. I have like a bunch of bands or like monikers that are not, nobody really knows them. They're not really any sort of real band or anything. I have like a punk band. I do punk music. I like doing death metal. I like doing singer-songwriter shit. I think it's all different. I don't know. Well, hard question. I don't know. I don't know.
I think you're speaking to something that's special about home recording, which is that you can experiment in that way, that sometimes with a band you really can't, you know, because with a band you got to bring the song to the whole band, and they all have their own expectations sort of for what it's going to sound like, you know. By yourself you can just be like, yeah, I'm going to make that type of song, that type of song, that type of song, and nobody is going to tell me that they don't want to play in a band like that, right? Because it's just you.
Yeah, that's how it is. But mostly write songs on a guitar first, though, to be honest. So guitar riffs first, mostly, and that's it. There you go.
Brigdon, just let me know. So, you know, we're at about noon. I think, you know, we started a bit late, so I'd like to go a few more minutes to kind of wrap it up. So yeah, if you give me the thumbs up. So let's kind of do a final question, go around the panel. Does that sound good, Brigdon? Okay, so final question, just and I'll kind of call on people. I really, first of all, thanks guys. This was awesome. I really wish we kind of would have had more time to get, kind of hear a little bit more from everybody. But for final question, both for the other panelists and for the people here, kind of what, maybe just talk about, this is a pretty broad one, of course, but, kind of what's your favorite part about recording at home? What sort of like continues to inspire you, when you're kind of, just at the grocery store or whatever, and you have a thought where you're like, oh man, that would be really cool. And you like, can't wait to get home to like get it down, or maybe you've been recording a song for like a week and you can't figure it out. And then you sort of hear something, I'd like to hear like the kind of really creative element of it, because there's the gear, there's all this other stuff, but ultimately I think what interests me the most is sort of like, what your relationship is to recording like creatively in your life. Like, is it something you're thinking about all the time? Is it something that, you just have like a schedule where every day you come home and you do it? You just do it when you have time? So maybe we'll start with you, Julie, kind of how does it fit into your life creatively?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to figure that out. When I was working on like a very cohesive album, it was like just something that I wanted to get done. So like life sort of like figured that part of it out. But my songwriting process is generally sort of starting words first. So I feel like if I'm like walking around or just like skating or something, or like heading out, like if words come to me, those eventually shape themselves into lyrics, and then I kind of work from there. So it is nice to like kind of have like this thing that can come out of like just random contemplative moments that I have in my life and working from there. Yeah, I guess like it has been something that I sort of set a little bit of time every evening to do. And I think especially like with COVID and staying at home, like I have limited alone time. So it's also an excuse, I think, for me to shut myself in my room away from my roommates. And that is like really good for my mental health and my creativity, I think. But mostly, I guess like what's really exciting to me about making music is the sense that like there always is more to learn, and also the like communities that I've been able to build out of it just from doing this for like a little bit of time. Like it's really cool to be able to talk about this here in such an open and like honest about my like beginnerness way. And I think like being able to connect with so many people about this has been really, really nice.
Yeah, that's great. Even though you're recording by yourself, yeah, there's a way that you tap into like the network of musicians. And I think, yeah, that's a really awesome part of it. How about you, Raj? Talk about sort of, how does this fit into your life?
So I teach high school, and that is really time consuming and emotional, and just, I don't know, just doing all the, work, the planning and things. But music actually starts for me through reading. I like reading a lot of different things. And I think especially more so, I would say with home recording, I think there's, without sounding too weird and new agey, but there's a mystical aspect of it where in many ways it is like a meditation. And so if I have like certain themes or certain things that I want to play, I have to have it in my head sort of cerebrally. And that really guides where I'm going with, certain, trying to fit different sounds into that. And so sometimes I might like spend 8 hours on a song and then go for a walk and, realize I don't want to work on it for 2 weeks, and then come back to it, and then it hits you. So, I mean, yeah, I think in that regard, it's like that sort of is why I got into recording music in the first place. It's like a guided meditation. You're doing things. You listen to your mixes, and you get put in like this hypnagogic state too, which is like, oh, I made this. Oh, I could pick out all the garbage that like Eve mentioned. You could get caught up in that, or you could just be at peace with is there. So yeah, sorry, I know my internet connection's choppy.
All good. Thanks, Raj. Justus, I get the feeling, you maybe spend a lot of time doing this stuff. So talk about like how big of a part of your life is sort of recording your own music at home.
Yeah, I usually just record late at night because my sleep schedule's fucked up. Actually, yeah, no, I had just woken up doing this. I usually sleep in. I record late at night, and that's how I do it. And well, we all here basically have our recording equipment at our disposal. So whenever you want to record, you can, and that's cool. Yeah, I record a lot. Just whenever I can, whenever I want to. And that's how it works, baby. That's how it is. Amen.
Okay, how about you, Jacob? What's your kind of favorite part about this?
Oh man. I mean, I just love that it's just your own, unique thing. It's just something that you need to get out and from yourself, but to the world, I'm very much obsessed with it. I love the process of it. I love, I mean, like, I like set myself up. I have rules, I always start with the drums first. I've been using this roll-in drum machine that is very sweet to the ears, and I could, download some stuff and add it on to there. I love just being I always set myself for discomfort. So it is a painful process. I push myself because I sit on a stool. Like right now I'm sitting in a chair and I am comfortable, but I usually sit on a stool because I like the feeling like if I'm in pain, it will make me lay down something like a lot better. So there is this connection between like pain and like the process of like getting your song done. I was actually talking to someone the other day about being in like a sweaty like a practice space and it's hot and everyone's like, I hate it. And I'm like, but I love it because like if you're learning songs, it's gonna make you learn just faster because you want to get out of there. You want to make sure that's perfect. So you push yourself, to be in these uncomfortable situations, and you're able to like get it done a lot faster. And I don't know, it's like it's yours, and I feel like, if you're not obsessed with the music, or if you're not like in love with the songs that you make, like if your own songs don't get stuck in your head, then what is the point? Like what is the point? You gotta like you're creating so you can have things exist, like if you see me walking around, it was happening in Reno and it happens here in Los Angeles. If I have headphones on, I'm probably listening to my own music. And I do that because like it's what I want to hear and I want to exist in the world. And I know it sounds like pretentious and self-absorbed, but I mean like I don't know why else would you make music in the first place? To impress your friends or to be, I don't know, famous or whatever? Like you want to hear these certain things in life, and that's just exciting in itself. And another thing too is just listening to or having heroes who who like you listen to and it makes you want to create things, like there's just this inspiration that you get. Like every time I listen to Raichu Sakamoto, very amazing Japanese pop artist and composer, like every time I like put his music on, I have to turn it off and I get to the keyboard and I start recording. And like that is the funnest thing to me, and that's like the most like overwhelmingly beautiful thing of it all, is like it's yours, it's in your environment, and you just can't help but like fall in love with it, and no one can take it away from you. And that's good. That's good for me.
Great. So Eve, I'll ask you to kind of finish up here, and maybe if you can roll in Michelle's question to your response. Michelle asks, I have a not fully formed question about perfection or playing things right, recording versus playing live. You can address that separately, but yeah, recording in your life, what part, kind of how it fits into your life and your favorite parts about it, and then maybe addressing a little bit of, yeah, you mentioned the darkness earlier, right? So talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a not fully formed answer to that question, which is something about like I can sometimes fall into a feeling of perfectionism and like wanting to take, especially with voice, I feel like I get really caught up in like wanting to take a really good singing take. And I've learned recently that like uh what I listen to back later that I really love is not necessarily the one while I'm doing it that I really love. And sometimes it's just about the mood I'm in. I've found that I record my best music right after a really long walk. If I like get back from a long walk and I record music, that is like I can sing the best, I can play the best. It's just I don't know what it is. And also like the other day I like was really getting frustrated with recording vocals, and I was like, I just need to do something different. So I like tried standing in this different part of my apartment, and I like tried like sort of dancing while I was singing and doing like arm movements, and that was transformative. But in terms of like recording in my life, I mean, it's a huge part of, I don't know, I think music in general, writing, but also recording feels like a way that I process, you know, like my emotional experience, my, you know, my fears, my dreams, my all that crap, all that stuff. It's how I like tap into feeling really sad if I know that it's like sometimes I feel like my emotions are like on my peripheral vision, and recording and listening to it and playing with a song helps me get to that place deeply. And I love it as a medium because I think recording a song and working on it and playing with it, and for me in something like Ableton is it's like painting something, because you're like creating the thing and then you're adjusting it and you're adding stuff and you're taking stuff away. And I don't know, I'm really grateful to be able to have spent time learning how to do that, because I find it really fun and exciting and get to create the sound that I want to hear.
Awesome. Okay, guys, so I think we're going to wrap it. What I would really like is I would like for all of our panelists to maybe drop some links in the chat about kind of where to listen to your music and stuff. And yeah, you know, we did record this so people will be able to hear it back, but I really love for you guys to stay connected and, be able to kind of keep this conversation going. Like what Julie said, I think that, being by yourself in your room is awesome, but it's also awesome to, talk to, this is the point of music, to kind of commune with other people. So we'd love if you guys could keep that going, stay in touch and share projects and music and stuff and questions. But thanks again. This was a great chat. I'm really, this was a little bit of an experiment for us. So thanks for rolling with it. I really enjoyed it. I hope everybody here did too. Anything else, Brigdon, we want to cover before we sign off for the day?
I don't think so. I think that was great. I'll forward along all the links to everyone who RSVP'd. I got all your emails. So if there's anything else, any other links y'all want to throw in the chat before we go, feel free. I'll forward them along. But thanks so much for joining. This was great. Y'all
everyone rules, by the way, in this chat. I'm really glad everyone got to talk and give their thing. Y'all
Agreed.
rule. Everyone, I mean, like, I appreciate everyone talking and stuff. This is cool. This is a very cool thing.
Everyone does rule.
Everyone rules.
Right.
Thanks, Jacob. All right, well, excited to hear some music from everybody soon, and maybe some people got inspired to start recording some of their own stuff after today. And yeah, everyone have a great Saturday, and talk again soon, I hope.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
later.
hosting it.
Bye.
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 Let's save all these links real quick. Well.
Alberta.
Recycle? Yeah, they bought a bunch left. Okay, cool.
Thanks.